thinking, well, we have the power where we can actually pick and choose because we're in this elitist position. We're the ones sort of controlling society at this point. They can choose what's acceptable and what's not, and that's just not the way it goes. They're not going to be able to push the floodgates and say transracialism is wrong, but transgenderism, let's accept it all. It's just not logical.
Well, and that last word there of logical is one on particularly on the pretty extreme progressive side. Obviously, there's some level of logic that's involved over there, but it tends to be based very emotionally. And yeah, there's going to be times where what's emotionally feels good for me is not logical and is not
Right.
actually good for me, but emotionally it feels that way. And as long as that's your God, it will take you all sorts of directions that unfortunately we're seeing some of the results of today.
Right. And I think that it's actually a lack of logic. They don't have a lot of logic on that side. It's very much just ideology and emotion.
Yeah. And it's frustrating on my end of, kind of my profession being a counselor, that I understand that emotions have importance. Like, we don't need to just completely disregard, and I do see this some, I won't say it's necessarily majority, but I see it some on the right to where, yeah, all emotions are it's just stupid. Like, we
Right.
basically just need to be robots and just do the right thing. And that we're not made that way. We are emotional creatures, but we're made to not be ruled over by our emotions. And that is what's happening on not just the fringe left. I think this is what's kind of concerning, is it seems
Right.
to be more of the mainline left
Yes.
that your emotions just rule the day, and
Exactly.
that turns us into tantrum little toddlers, and that's not good.
And it's even creeping into areas like science,
Mm.
the medical field, and that's really scary to think that you're going in and you're seeing a doctor, and this doctor, he went to Harvard, he's supposed to be one of the best doctors, but instead he's more concerned about equity, and treating people based on their identities rather than looking at the body and treating the body, which is what he's supposed to be doing. So that's really scary. I read, I can't remember what university it is. I think it's a university in Florida, actually, and they were saying that they're no longer going to separate when they're doing certain tests, looking for cancers and so forth. And I'm not a medical person, so I don't know exactly what the terminology is. But they're going to, rather than saying we're doing this specific test based on a female or a male, we're just going to kind of lump them together and make a different range for just human, not the male range,
Oh,
not the
no.
human range. And basically, the way they justify it is, of course, this makes trans people feel better, and that the differences are so small that it would be negligible if someone were to be injured because we're not testing them properly. And what if you're the person that's in that small margin that is hurt?
Mhm.
Do you want to be that person just so someone else can feel better because they're pretending to be something that they're not? Of course you don't. Why are we doing this? It just doesn't make sense. We're shirking science and technology in place of people's feelings, and it's not progressive at all. This
Yeah.
isn't going to progress us in any field. We're not going to get to Mars. We're not going to get super advanced flying cars and so forth. We're not going to be able to get any of these cool things as long as our focus is on people's feelings as opposed to actually moving forward.
Yeah, the stuff with male and female bodies, especially,
Yes.
just to my point earlier, that that black male, um, are there going to be some differences biologically? Yeah, a little bit. I mean, our skin color is a little bit different. There's some traits of black males that tend to be in one sphere that are different than white males in a different sphere. But again, by and large, those tests that they run, they're probably going to be the same test
Right.
because we're both males. But
Exactly.
for my wife and I, they're going to be very different.
Right.
We have vastly different hormone structure, bone structure.